What does world-class real estate look like to you?
Try to combine old-fashioned traditional estate agent values, but with all the modern tech that can help you move that forward.
Excellent communication is at the heart of what they do.
Great real estate looks like strong leadership.
Consistency.
A special thanks to our sponsors, Iceberg Digital, for sponsoring this week's episode.
Ho, 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 and Merry Christmas, and welcome to a Christmas edition of the World Class Real Estate Podcast. We've normally not released episodes over the Christmas break, but we are super organised, so we have got some festive fun for you today. How are you, my friend, Mr. Ian Macbeth?
Well, we were talking off camera. I've got a little bit of a virus that I'm on the way out of. And you've got DOMS, which for those that don't know, means you've been working out in the gym super hard. So we are getting ourselves ready for Christmas, but feeling a little bit sorry for ourselves as well. How are you, other than achy legs?
Yeah, good. We've had the Christmas party on Friday, so we're recording this on the 16th. So we've got the interest rate conversation coming up on Thursday. That'll be interesting to see if it creates a little bit of boost for what I expect to be a busy January market. I'm really good. The team are really good. We had a great night out on Friday. And we're actually just about to go into this morning our goal setting workshop for the new year, where we're going to all share some goals and put some plans on the page, and then we'll confirm that everyone's on board with those in January, and we'll hold each other accountable for them. So that is a really positive thing. I'm now in the position where we're analysing this year, and actually I'm really happy with how it's gone. So I feel like I'm ready for Christmas, but I'm also buzzed still about work, and I suppose that's quite a good thing, because we've still got another week to go. Obviously, that will be done now when this is released, but we've still got another week to go. We were really quiet last week, and I was thinking, are we just going to loll up into Christmas? But actually, yesterday was a little bit busier again. So I think there's quite a lot of activity, and I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities in the new year, is my sort of viewpoint on it.
Yeah. I'm excited for next year. I think I just got a feeling that the way people were holding off from the budget and the flexibility from mortgage lenders at the moment, rates are now, they're all right, aren't they? Kind of 90% is a decent rate now. Low fours, probably going to get to 4 in the next couple of months, maybe dip below. And I think where people have held off, and then the budget came and it was a bit of a flat pancake, I think people will just be, okay, well, we'll get Christmas out of the way and then we'll get rocking and rolling. And you mentioned Christmas party. We had ours in London the other day. Let me tell you, Saturday night in London, there's no signs of the economy straining. It was so busy, it was ridiculous. Everyone walking around with bags, everyone spending money, everyone was in the bars. It looked like it was popping, the economy. Absolutely popping. So I'm excited for next year. Your predictions?
Sorry?
What's your predictions for Q4?
For next year? I think that we will see a faster start to the year than we've seen over recent years. I agree with you that I think there's a bit of pent-up demand and pent-up supply, if you're talking about them as two different things, within the market. The budget, unfortunately, I think the budget killed our autumn market a little bit. We've actually had some really good sales, and we've sold some big properties in the last week since the budget as well. But I think it did just dampen the market, and there will be people who sat on their hands waiting to see what happened. Then the budget comes, and it's felt really that everyone's in the Christmas mood really early this year. So the budget came, but people are already talking about Christmas. A lot of people already had the Christmas decorations up by that point round here. So I think Christmas has probably mean that we've not felt the effect of a average budget there. Then I think we'll see it in January. I think the market will kick pretty strong pretty early. What I'm talking to my sellers about is, people traditionally think, we'll put our house on the market in spring, and you see a lot of stock come to market in spring. I think the advice to sellers at the moment should be, you want to be beating that rush in spring this year, because I do believe that pent up demand from a quieter autumn will kick in. I think we'll see a lot of instructions in January.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's going to be flooded with listings. I think how you as an agency handle that with regards to what type of client are you attracting, are you getting the right properties at the right prices, is going to then dictate your spring pipeline, obviously. But I think you could easily just be like shooting fish in a barrel for listings in January and February. But ultimately, that's not the goal, is it? The goal is not to have just loads of boards everywhere. Excuse me. The goal is to have good listings that go in the pipeline with good clients. So setting up your attraction, your marketing for those types of people is really, really important. So that will be key. But I was reading an article, which will be a week back if people want to go and look at it, on Estate Agency Today, and it was quite an interesting article about transaction time, which has again slowed, believe it or not.
Shock.
The average time to exchange in the UK from going under offer is now 123 days, which is 4.1 months. So we've kind of gone from when me and you started agency, where you could probably turn a pipeline 4.5 times in a year if you were a top performing office, maybe 4. You'd look at it quarterly, wouldn't you? You'd kind of predict it and say, right, knock 10% off the pipeline, and that's what we should do, divided by 3 each month for that quarter. Whereas now you can't even turn a pipeline 3 times in a year, apparently, as a national average, which is mental, because we've got to do an extra third of work, haven't we? Same, basically.
Well, and it's more than that as well, isn't it? Because the longer they're in your pipeline, the longer they're a liability in terms of costing your business money. So the quality of solicitors and that side of things is really, really challenging. We're looking at doing the searches up front, as Ben talked about a couple of weeks ago. So I spoke to him after the podcast, and we're in the process of setting that up, which, if you've not looked into that, to me, that's a bit of a no-brainer. So we're speaking to all our solicitors about getting that set up, because our desire is to get these transactions through. I maintain, if you said to most buyers, do you want to move next week? They'd be like, yeah. That would be the ultimate. And okay, we're not going to get there anytime soon, but we need to drive that average of 4.1 months down. Really, that's got to be a real focus as an industry, I think.
Scary, really. It says Northeast is the best performing in England, 3.6. Scotland is the best in the UK, but they've got a slightly different legal system, haven't they? Theirs is 2.9 months, which you'd take now, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Outer London, kind of, which is, I guess, where you could say I sit, just outside of London, 4.6. I mean, we're not seeing 4.6, but that's hideous. You're getting close to turning your pipeline twice in a year, basically, which is absolutely bonkers. And I do think there's a case for us. I know we had Johnny on talking conveyancing, didn't we? Which was quite interesting through the eyes of a conveyancer. And I'm doing a podcast on Friday for another industry podcast, and they're quite prepared. They send a Google document for things to be sent out. So it got me thinking about...
You're doing another industry podcast? You've not told me about this.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm cross-pollinating.
Oh.
But yeah, they invited me on. But one of the Google Docs is how can you stop a fall, for something to do with pipelines, which got me thinking again, on the topic. And then I saw this article, but it is a big strain on estate agents, isn't it? It is a big strain because we do so much of the work for free, and it's so easy to look at our average fee and say it's $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 because that's our exchange fee or whatever. But when you actually break it down, most estate agents they do well to average $1,000 as a fee when you think about the listing work that you do, which is scary, isn't it? It's amount of work. So we've got to do something different with that. And I think, with conveyancing and with estate agents and with the reform and all of this aspect of things, taking control and doing searches up front as an estate agent is a very, very strong thing. And if you can have a solicitor on your side that you built a relationship with, either as buyer or seller, then you've got a fight in the camp and you've got an opportunity to do it. I do think we put too much into it. I think we try and be the conveyancer sometimes as estate agents, and we should be the puppet master, not the puppet. But it is a bit of a problem. So hopefully that next year is fixed. But it is going out on Christmas Eve, and I don't want to be doom and gloom. So
can I just question you on that? I completely agree. We'll move on in a minute, but let's just talk about your opinion on sales progression, because you've touched on it before, and we've never really dived deep into it. You said that you think, if I'm not mistaken, and tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth, that we do too much as agents. So what's your why do you think we do too much? And how do you resolve that within, well, I know your business is different, but how do you resolve that in a traditional estate agency?
Yeah. I think most estate agents are great doers, and we're not taught to manage situations, people. So we're not managers, we're doers, we're action go-getters as estate agents, especially, valuers and managers and sales listers, if you like. The job is to go out and do the work.
Extroverted.
Yeah, but if you imagine a building site and you've got to build 12 houses, and we say that building site is the analogy of a transaction, that's got chains in, it's got different parties in, it might have 12 different things in there, from mortgage advisors to conveyancers to buyers, a chain of 4. Either you're the site manager or you're a builder, but you can't be both, because you're never going to get the houses built. And what we try and do as estate agents from day one is we try and be the builder, the scaffolder, the electrician. We try and do it all, but we're not a skilled, qualified electrician, so we can't do the electrics. So it's pointless trying to do that. So we can't do the conveyancing, and we can't build the foundations if we're the site manager. We can't be the finance people. So the only thing we can be is the project manager. And to be the project manager, you have to set expectations from day one. And we don't do that. We start doing from day one. So straight away, we're babysitting. We're saying to the solicitor, we're going to do the chasing for you. We're saying to the seller, we're going to chase and get you updates. We're saying to the buyer, I'm going to find out what's outstanding. So straight away, we're showing an expectation that we are the doer, and we shouldn't be. We should say to the seller, I'm not going to wait on hold to your solicitor because they don't want to talk to me. I'm not the client. I'll get involved if I need to, but I need you to be the action go-getter here. I need you to chase your solicitor. You're paying them to do that. And I'll consult and advise you, and I'll do the back end stuff if I need to do it. Same for buyer. And from a conveyancing point of view, I just think if you've got both conveyances sets of emails, buyer and seller solicitor, then you're simply just CCing both of them in and project managing throughout, so that there's no hidden agenda. Buyer solicitor knows what's being said, sellers do. They get into a CC wormhole, and no one's trying to trick the other person because we're all in the same communication channel, and you just get buyer and seller to do the work. And if we set that expectation, like with a child, if you set expectation from day one, then the transaction, and I've done this for 23 years, this is how I work. I've never had a problem with after sales. And even as a self-employed agent for 2 years, 5% of my week was done on after sales, and my fall through rate was decent. My transaction time was decent because I set the expectation, because I'm not the doer, I'm the project manager.
Yeah.
And I think as estate agents, this is where we've gone wrong. We've given conveyancers a way out because we said we're going to do the donkey work for them. And then the pressure is on us. And then conveyancers just believe that estate agents will do the chasing. And as a result, they've gone reactive. We're trying to be proactive, but we don't have the time to be. And the seller doesn't do any work. They sit on their hands because they're expecting their agent to do it, because that's what we sold on the valuation and that's what we sold at expectation level. And the whole thing's fucked. So, yeah, basically.
We're not being doom and gloom because it's Christmas Eve.
Yeah. But that's the answer at the same time. So, it's a positive. If you go into 2026 and you say, right, well, I want to beat the average, beat 4.1 months, beat 123 days. And to do that, I'm going to try and be the project manager. If you watch The Apprentice, be the project manager, be the person that's controlling it. Don't be the person doing the work. There's only so many things we can do, isn't there, as an estate agent? So yes, oversee it, have a regular check-in to make sure things are moving as they should be, but don't do the chasing.
I always one of the things we always say to our clients is, we can push the solicitors, but ultimately you push them much more effectively than we do because you're their client. And that's what you're saying effectively here, isn't it? I can tell you what to do, but you need to go and do it.
It's slightly different if you've got a really good relationship with a solicitor that you're recommended, and you recommend them because they're good and because you've got a relationship. You may take a kickback, fine, but you're not recommending them because they give you the biggest kickback. But we're recommending them because you've got a relationship with them. That's different because you can have a different conversation with that person. But if you haven't got that, the last thing you want to be doing in that transaction is being the doer. And that's kind of my hot take on it, if you like. That's kind of what's always worked well for me. But I'm quite good at project managing. I'm quite good at forward planning in my diary. I'm quite good at sort of overseeing and being strong enough with a client to say, look, this is a problem. This is outstanding. You need to get on the phone to your solicitor this afternoon and you need to fix that. And you need to tell them this is what you need to do, and getting a buyer or a seller to do that. And I'm not bullying them. I'm advising them on what they need to do to fix the problem. Because as you said at the start, if most buyers and sellers could complete the next day, they would.
Yeah. And people are scared to do that with their solicitors, so we probably need to give them help. One of the things we can work on is help give them the confidence to challenge the solicitors. I think because the quality of solicitors, is at times can be quite poor, not very reactive, and that sort of thing. So we have to challenge the clients. I can completely understand that and get on board that with that. So that's enough about this year and conveyancing timelines. That's not going to make anyone particularly excited at this time of year. Let's talk about next year and starting the year fast and what we can do. We've got some fabulous podcasts coming out over the next few weeks, some face-to-face episodes we recorded a few weeks ago. But talk to me about what your first week back looks like and what sort of planning you've done to make sure that you start the year quickly.
We've done a lot of planning in December, a lot of forecast planning, a lot of decision making, high level decision making to make sure that 2026 fits how we want it to fit.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the prep work goes into those December planning decisions. If there's a bit of a change in one of the businesses that we have to do, for example, in our mortgage business, we've just totally U-bended on the way that we take protection income, for example, which goes against everything that we decided when we set up that business. But we've done it for logical reasons because that's what the business needs to do. So sometimes you have to change, U-bend on things, and that's been key. The thing that I've been driving with the agents, and I've got another session on it today, is getting visual with the public, being visual. So, ultimately marketing, but more than marketing, really calling out your target market next year so that you're working with the people you want to work with. I had a really rubbish email come through from our call handler yesterday, which was basically this person wanted to sell, declined all bits of information. This is their mobile, didn't want to speak to us, blah, blah, blah. A bit of a narky one. So I called the client back to try and find out what had gone on there. And she seemed fine. She seemed nice enough. And I could tell she was a bit spiky, and she was like, I had a really bad first impression with the person, so I'm not going to use your services. And, I was just trying to find out how you work. And she was being really difficult on the phone. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry to hear that. And by the end of it, we'd had a really kind of nice conversation. She said, I'm going to talk to my son and, maybe I'll give you guys a call back. And you sold next door, which is why I called in. But I think you undersold it, even though I don't live in the area. I was like, okay, I'll get.
Sounds like the ideal client.
Yeah. So it's funny enough, but by the time I put the phone down, I was pissed off with the call handler, because I was like, you just lost us. It would have been about a 10 grand fee. So I was like, it's a bit frustrating. So I asked the account manager for the call handling service to send me the transcript and the audio, and I listened to it, and the client was an absolute arsehole to her. Absolute arsehole. Really, really nasty. She didn't do anything wrong, the call handler, whatsoever. Spiky for no reason, generally rude. And I was like, actually, that's not the person that we want to work with at all. So there's always two sides to every story. But the reason why I mention it,
3 sides, one side, the other, and the truth.
Well, 4. There's what I first thought, and then what I actually thought at the end of it as well. But they're not the people we want to work with. So a lot of the planning next year is to work with good people that are, respect and understand the model. And I think in January, to long-windedly answer your question, you've got 1 week where it's quiet. So get all the ducks in the row. In January, get everything set up, get all of your processes in place, and then by week 2, when it goes busy, at least you're in control of what's going to go on. Don't sit around and just spin on the chair, for the first week back. We're back on the 5th, but we don't need to really be back on that Friday. All the kids go back to school on the 5th. And I think, as we've said, there's going to be valuations going in that diary pretty quickly by week 2. And it's just making sure that you're very clear focused on your goals like you're doing today, which I think is really important. And not just number goals, but actually, right, what do we want to be seen as this year? Who do we want to work with this year? And what do we want our pipeline to look like this year? What do we want our listing pot to look like this year? And being defined in that way.
Yeah, I think this is a good opportunity to do a bit of marketing over the Christmas period. People have got a bit more time. So, if you've not already done that, you can still turn that on this week if you've got a few hours spare. So I think that's a good opportunity. As you say, like you have done quite a lot of planning in December. We always do. It gets quieter. You've got to utilise that time, in my opinion. But it isn't too late, as you say. If you haven't managed to get the planning or the forecasting done, you've still got an opportunity to do that, but you've got to do it in that first week. You've got to hit the ground running, make any decisions, and then you set up. I think you've always got to start the year looking at how you want to end the year.
Yeah,
I always do do that with my goals, and I think you've got to sit down and just reflect and say, right, where do we want to be as a business 31st of December 2026, and you work back from there. So I think it's a really good, new year, fresh start. You can put whatever's happened this year behind you. And my predictions are that we will have a slightly better year economically than we've had this year, because I think it will be less inconsistent. Most agents that I speak to and most people that we've spoken to on this podcast have said how it's been up and down, and it's been, one busy week, one quiet week, and that's definitely what we've seen. And I think we'll have less of that next year. Hopefully a little bit just calmer market. Interest rates hopefully by now will have come down a touch, and I think that combined with the mortgage lenders relaxing some of their rules on lending will, pose for a busy start, and hopefully the economy can maintain that level.
Yeah. I think Rightmove showed their statistics yesterday that average asking prices over the last 12 months had dropped by 0.6%.
Yeah.
So 0.5% down on asking prices, but I think that's about right.
Yeah.
What do you think next year in terms of not necessarily transactions for estate agents, but sort of prices? Are you expecting a decline next year, an increase, a sort of plateau? What's your thoughts on pricing?
I think when you look at the Rightmove stats and you look at average asking prices, we report on it because we're so involved in Rightmove. But actually, I think the average asking price is one of those measures that can be really misleading. But that's what Rightmove have got the data for. That's what they report. It's probably the most read half price index we've got. I'm not surprised that they've come down. They had to come down because the general public were still working on valuations from a few years prior.
Yeah.
Whereas now, and I think agents have caught up with this as well, now the market is price sensitive. It has been for 2 years, but clients haven't necessarily been onto this. So I think the average asking prices have dropped because people are now knowing you've got to go on the market at the right price to sell in this market. It's a decent market, but you overprice your house, you'll be sat there for months, years maybe. So I'm not surprised by that. I think next year, I think the market will perform in steady growth. So we in this area, actually, our market has performed better because of the affordability and what have you than many areas down south. So actually, when we're talking to people, we're talking about the overall market slowing down, general resilience in the northwest, and I think we'll see a little bit of growth locally in terms of probably in terms of sale prices, and then maybe asking prices towards the end of the year. But we're not going to suddenly go into a boom market. I don't expect that, but I think it'll be I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good year, but I also think it's going to be a year where really good agents show their worth once again.
Yeah, I completely agree with pretty much everything you just said in terms of, I think it's going to show the good agents from the weak. We find that when the market it's not a tough market, is it? I think it's tougher than it was.
Yeah.
But the last 2 years, it's been a bit tricky, and it's been hard at times. The budget slowed a few things, but we're kind of recording at the back end of December, and often as an estate agent, you pretty much kind of died a death by the end of November, haven't you? But it still feels pretty active. Viewings packed on the weekend and deals going in the pipeline, and solicitors are getting things exchanged. And that's quite a nice place to be at the end of the year. It means we're kind of finishing the year strongly. But I think as we go into next year, like you said there, good agents will do really well. If you've got your goals and you've got your focus and you're proactive with your diary planning, then I think we've got a good opportunity next year of doing some good stuff. And it's interesting when you look at Rightmove, in fact, they say 0.6% drop. But then if you look at Halifax and Nationwide, actual sales data for their mortgage completions, it's more like a 2% uplift, between 1% and 2%. I think that's about right. It's probably crept a little bit, but the asking prices have dropped.
Because people were on 20 grand too much.
Yeah.
So they're on 20 grand too much. They were accepting 30 grand less eventually. Now I think people are getting onto the fact, if I go 20 grand too much, it's going to take me ages to sell. So they just come down. That's the asking. That's the key, isn't it? That asking price. And I think that's what we'll see, those Halifax Nationwide indices just gently nudging up, which hopefully shows a fairly healthy economy.
Yeah, I think most buyers and sellers are now aligned with where pricing should be, other than that person that was on the phone the other day who's out of area that thought it was undersold. But you don't get too many of those now. You normally find, the call that comes in that says, I've got the best plot on the street, or, we've done this or that. There's not too many sellers really, really talking their price up, because the media has been so negative that actually everyone's been pummeled into realism, and that kind of helps us a little bit, which,
Yeah, it does. I love those meetings where you say, what are your price expectations? They say, I'd rather not say at this point. And then you sit down at the end and you give them the price, and they say, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking, thank God for that, because I had one last week and it happened. And I thought, all right, okay, I can work with you. You're a realist. You've listened to me. You're going to take my advice. And that's what we want. Those are the people that we want to be working with as we go into the new year. Just before we finish, I've got a bit of a funny story for you, actually. So we think that we've got somebody who is enjoying having a bit of a dig at us at the moment. So we got a negative Google review from a very suspect account.
Is this a competitor or ex-client? Sorry.
Well, the negative Google review, they always hurt because it affects the rating, and we monitor that and are quite proud of the number of 5-star reviews we've got. And of course, people check it, right? Yeah. So we got a negative Google review that came in. It was a couple of weeks ago, actually, now. But it called out one of our members of the team. And Michelle's been with us 13 years, and it called her out by full name, called her unprofessional and rude. But it didn't mention anything about a specific transaction, and the name wasn't someone's name. It was like Property Dev 14 or something like that. And it was the only review that they've ever left. And I was like, I think that's someone just trying to have a dig. Yeah. So chat did a fabulous response that I thought actually gave us an opportunity just to show that, we can deal with criticism if somebody is particularly unhappy. But if you are genuinely unhappy, please contact us. We'll try and put it right. Then, so I think that was someone just having a bit of a pop. And then over the weekend, we got an email via our contact us page from again, another questionable name, having a dig at our Christmas themed photos. So they said, we can't believe you're misrepresenting your properties, and we would have thought better from a company with a set established by a legal professional. I thought, some people, you're just never going to please some people, are you?
Apparently some industries are quiet at the moment, and they've got nothing better to do with their
time. Exactly my thought. I said to the if you're not creating hate, you're not creating impact. So that's my view on those sorts of things. Just they both made me chuckle anyway.
I don't have too many complaints come across my inbox these days, but I funnily enough did have one last week actually, and it was actually from a removal business that was complaining about one of the agents. It wasn't necessarily the client, and I think there's a bit of a personal vendetta there in some sort of fashion or another. But effectively, the removal company was kicking off because we'd promised to hand the keys over apparently at 1 o'clock. The client had booked the removal company for 1 o'clock. We all know that we can't hand the keys over until the money's with the solicitor.
Promise a time to hand the keys over.
Yeah. So this removal company actually has hourly insurance. So you can buy an insurance policy so that if it does overlay, they get paid. So it's a bit of a money-making scheme. I don't know what it is. So it's 40 quid for insurance so that you don't get charged by the hour. Anyway, the completion didn't happen until 2:45. So the agent didn't hand the keys over. I think until about 3:10 when they were able to get there after the money came through. So it's like 25 minutes after completion. It's not bad. But the client was pissy about it. The removal company just spat out this massive complaint about it. And I kind of just sort of said, like, what do you want us to do?
You know the game.
Yeah, you're a removal company. You highlighted how many times you've been in business for 30 years. You know the transaction scenario. Anyway, you just get those, don't you? You just get pissy people, and you just got to let it kind of water off a duck's back, move on. And it's a shame when it goes public, though, with the Google reviews and stuff like that. We've had a few random ones over the years that you just know is a competitor, and it's just unnecessary. But, it's the season of Christmas. What does world-class Christmas look like for the Worralls anyway? Last question.
Lots of food, plenty of ale, and a wind down as well. So this year will be probably a little bit more health focused than previous years. I've got a gym comp that I'm doing in January, so that'll probably have a bit more of a theme, because normally I'll just not do very much at all. Whereas I think this year I'll probably go in the gym a few times. But life's about balance, so we'll be having a good time. We'll be having a laugh. More time at home this year. Kids are at an age where they want to be at home. They're really excited. We're really excited. But from a work perspective, it is a switch off. The office is closed. The phones are answered, and I'll check my emails a couple of times and deal with any inquiries. But I don't believe that there's very many clients that expect a lot to happen over that period.
Yep.
And those of my clients wouldn't want viewings over that period. But we have sold houses before. I think that is one of the great things with this job, that, you can deal with a few viewing inquiries when you shut. It doesn't bring you a great deal of stress. If somebody has something urgent, then we're sent a message on it from the call answerers. But it means that we don't really have to think about work a great deal for, it's not quite 2 weeks, is it, this time? We're back in on the Friday, so what's it, 10 days? But it means that, Rachel and I won't talk very much about work. We talk about work all the time, naturally. And the kids, I think the most important thing was the kids have our undivided attention. What about you guys? Is it a home? Is it a big family Christmas? What's the crack?
Yeah, well, Christmas starts Saturday, the 20th for us. So we'll have had it by the time this goes out. That's where my mum has all of us they go to a pub now, actually, for the big Christmas day, because she's a bit too old to cook. But I think there's 19 of us that will be at that. So we'll go to my mum's in the morning and we call it sort of fake Christmas day, basically.
Yeah.
It just makes it easier. They're quite good on that basis, because it means it's just Christmas day with mum is then, and with my stepsisters with their dad, obviously. So that'll be a big day. That'll be a big monster day. Then on actual Christmas day, I'm cooking. We've got some people over in the morning, one set of grandparents over in the morning. My dad's over for dinner in the afternoon, and then my brother's over with his kids for the kids to play in the evening. Did all the playroom up this weekend. Me and Mrs. both felt rough, but the kids were with grandma, so built 3 flat pack units from IKEA, decorated 4 walls.
Build some space to fill where Santa's going to fill it.
The opposite of what we wanted to do, but we slogged it out. So the playroom looks good for Christmas now. So yeah, just a lot of that, bit of fitness, like you said. I'll have a couple of drinks here and there over Christmas. I won't get drunk, but I'll have a couple of drinks over Christmas here and there, if I'm in the mood. Get some good long running done. Get some long runs done. I've got an event at the end of January, like you, so I'm training for that at the moment. A coastal run, so a lot of elevation. Just spend some time with the family, really. My parents are getting old. My dad's 70 and February, and my mum's in her 80s now. So yeah, just spending some time with them, with the grandkids, and just enjoying it. Just a bit of switch off from work, like you said, bit of fitness, and just nestle down and enjoy it, really.
Yeah, I don't think it gets much
Bit of
better. I don't
football.
think it gets much better than that. I think that's last about. We work hard so that we can spend some good quality time with the family, and you know, if you've had a successful year, then you can, if you want to go out for a big Christmas lunch, if you want to spend your money on drinks, if you want to spend it on toys for the kids, you know, this is the time to do it and to enjoy it. So yeah, Merry Christmas from us both. As you know, we do this because we love our industry. We want to see it improve and get better. We hope you all have a fabulous Christmas. Thank you very much for listening. There is episodes, as I say, going out over the next couple of weeks, and we will see you again on that basis next week.
Merry Christmas all.